Hey, we are back. We are live.
Wow.
We are right here in the studio. You guys, it's crazy.
1 week off, and here we are.
Crazy. My gosh, what has happened in the news?
A lot of stuff has happened this week, Steve.
Oh, my gosh. I can't even. I don't even know where to begin as I even flip around on all of these.
Well, I mean, I hope you got the pulse on the local news with the newspaper. But this thing with the national with Trump and the conviction up there and the convictions, I should say, 34 counts of what was it? Business.
Hey.
34 felonies for business. What was the actual?
Fraud.
I'm thinking here. So it was 34 counts of.
Oh, Mark,
Golly,
you're killing me.
how can I get to this thing?
Oh, you're killing me,
I had it, and then it just went away when we switched the internet around a minute ago. So hold on just a second. The charges were felony. They kept calling it the hush money, but it's not about hush money. It's about business records. And so they said that he falsified his internal business records at his private company while trying to cover up an effort to illegally influence the 2016 election. They're saying that he paid the Stormy Daniels. I think it was $130,000 or something like that. In my opinion, she extorted $130,000 because there was never really any proof that he did anything, that he had this affair with her. Mm-hmm. But he was there was something put together to say, hey, we're going to get out here and she's going to sell this story to the tabloids or whatever and get them published. And so when he cut it off, so he cut it off by paying $130,000 whatever. But it went through Michael Cohen, his attorney at the time. So, and this all came out in the, there was a lot of stuff that came out about Michael Cohen and things in the the election. He fancied himself as a fixer, but it was. But no one ever. Most people that talked about him, over the last several months, said that was more of an illusion of his, that he wanted to be known as a fixer, but
Crooked Cohen.
But he's been convicted of lying on the stand, right? So that's at least that's what's being reported. And and then he goes, of course, he's supposedly, telling the truth all the time now. But there's a lot of things that was going around. He wanted to be part of the Trump White House from 2016 to 2020, and he wasn't. And it was like one of these things where he was one of the Trump's lawyers. Nobody disagrees with that. And so what happened is that this whole thing came up, and there was this thing came up with Stormy Daniels, and then Michael Cohen, I guess, worked with her attorney. They came to some agreement that if they paid $130,000, Michael Cohen actually paid the money out of his pocket to go ahead and expedite this, right? And so nobody denies that. That is his. People have been paying for non-disclosure agreements forever. There was nothing illegal about that. Nothing illegal about that. So this is what. So they couldn't say, "Oh, he did." He was. So what they wanted to do was say that, well, by him doing that, there's nothing that says he can't do that and put that on his taxes,
right,
and take that off as a business expense.
Right.
So it was listed on the business expenses as a legal expense, but that's what it goes. That's what it goes under. So here's where they got it. Okay. First of all, this is a misdemeanor in the state of New York, not a felony. Okay. 34 counts. 34 misdemeanor counts.
Well, in some news stories, they report it as a felony.
No. This is how they got through that. Okay, yeah. So I want to make sure this is clear. In New York State, what we just described is considered whether or not it was a real crime or not is another story. But they're saying it was a crime because he falsified the record, so he didn't have to call it hush money. But in business, there is no hush money line item, right? There is no I paid off a person for an NDA line item. It's called a legal expense, right? If you look on your taxes, there's no definition anywhere in any of your bookkeeping software or in the rules and things that says hush money or business NDA payoff or anything like that. It's simply legal expenses, right? That's where it goes. And then you have to prove whether or not it's a legal expense. Okay. If the IRS said, no, you shouldn't have said that shouldn't have been deductible, all right, as a business expense. Yeah. That's a different thing. Yeah. Okay. So here they're saying that he manipulated it so that he wouldn't have to claim that as an expense on his campaign. But by law, I know in the state of Kentucky, and I know that the FEC, the former FEC chairman, which is the Federal Election Commission chairman, he was ready to testify in Trump's case to say that was not a violation because they would not allow that as an election expense. Right? In Kentucky, you're not allowed to write that off as an election expense.
That's right.
Right? It's not considered an election expense. It's not advertising. There's very specific things that go as election expenses. You can go to in Kentucky, you can go to the Kentucky Registry of Election Finance, and you can download their book. It's a PDF.
Quite extensive, by the way.
Yeah, and you can go through this, and it'll tell you what expenses are allowed and what expenses are not. Legal expenses are allowed. Yep. But this as a specific expense is not.
So let me bring in why I think a lot of people are upset. Because if I was being accused of something, of course, I feel in no way have I done any wrongdoing. Yes, I consulted my attorney. My attorney advised me, and we agreed this would be in the best interests of whatever, right? Whatever that happened. Did that happen? That probably happened. That probably happened in some way. But let's start from the beginning. You have a prosecutor that campaigned on the idea that he was going to get Trump. Show me the person, I'll show you the crime. Well, heck, if we were doing that, I think there's a lot of politicians that should be wrapped up in that.
I mean, if you take this specific case, this could be applied to just about every election on the federal level specifically. You cannot tell me that there's not anybody that's not been paid off somewhere along the line and wasn't called as an election expense. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so to not go down and belabor this, but there was a big thing about congressmen using federal funds to pay hush money on numerous cases to the tune of over $18 million over a period of over 20 years. And I can tell you that even Joe Biden was on that list for about the tune of $1 million. Yeah. That you can go look up. Fact check me. I dare you. But that's in government.
I haven't been so ticked off about something in so long. I was ticked off when it happened, and I knew they were going to convict him. It was done in Manhattan, for goodness sake. Nothing but Democrats on the jury. And what I thought was going to happen, though, I really thought the saving grace was there was a couple of lawyers on there, on the jury, and I thought they would stand up for what's right in law.
No, hey, listen, I thought so too. But again, there's a couple of things about this case that have come out since then. The jury was never sequestered before the trial. Right. When they were selected, and then they were never selected. So you don't know how many of them went. Obviously, in the voting record of that area, they asked for a different venue. They didn't get that. Okay. So that's an appeal right off the bat. Yeah. They can make the accusation, but they would have to prove that against the jury.
This is going to get overturned.
Oh, well, let's just assume it doesn't, okay? Because that's going to be our real conversation, right? Yeah. Because we have a convicted felon running for office, can't he even vote in his own state now that he's a convicted felon?
Well, he's from Florida, so the answer is yes.
Okay, right. So the second appellate reason, and I want to go into this very carefully, because we know we have a prosecutor that goes after this, right? So first was the idea that the jury wasn't sequestered. That would be a potential appellate reason. The second one is nowhere in the history of the United States in its entire history of our Constitution has a state ever prosecuted a federal crime as for the purpose of doing, which only emphasizes the bigger picture that this guy ran on, I'm going to get you, Trump.
Yes, and they're used. And the timing of this is during the election season. Why it could have been done 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
Completely weaponized. And if you watch the feedback from the Attorney General for he was on subpoena for Congress yesterday. And he was on there and answering for this, and it was very difficult to watch him say yes or no that there weren't communications from that office to his office, and that they've been asking for the records. That's a different story. I'm not getting into that, but okay. And so that's the one thing. Appeal argument number 2 is going to be on the basis for the conviction here. One of the unlawful means is a violation of Federal Election and Campaign Act. Do you know how many times that anybody in our history, and it's 0, never happened before. So that in itself would be an opportunity. There will be strong appeals, and there are going to be issues that will be carefully considered by the appellate courts. And, this even has the attention of the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they can't just jump in because it does have to go through the layers. Just those 2 issues alone, right? Yeah, you can complain about the jury, you can complain about the venue, right? And that you're trying me for a crime. Third appellate reason. How do you take me to court and never tell me what my crime is until I'm adjudicated by the jury of my peers?
You can't. You weren't allowed to see the witness list, so they weren't allowed to interview witnesses beforehand.
Right. You were not.
You weren't allowed to have. He wasn't allowed to have. He wasn't allowed to call the witnesses that he was. He should have been able to call a witness and say this was not a crime.
Expert
That's
witnesses.
Right. I mean, this is going to get overturned, and there's at the very least, it's going to end up in the Supreme Court. Let me build up
to that part of the argument. So now we have all of these things that I would say that even CNN. I mean, don't quote me, but there are people on CNN that have been on other networks that are in opposition. Obviously, this is a conservative. The Meade Truth is a conservative channel.
This is the Meade County Republican Party.
Yeah, Meade County Republican Party.
This is the Meade County Republican Party right here on the air right now.
Yeah. So, and we have a conservative stance. But the problem I think that we face as a nation is that we all call BS on what we just witnessed. You know what I mean? You've got one side, attorneys and people that are just tickled pink. They're so glad that this happened. Actors, etc., blah, blah, blah. And I'm not trying to be slanderous in any way, but all these people are out there saying their thing, right? They're exactly right. We should not challenge the justice system. I agree. I think that everything up to this point builds for a great argument when it's all said and done and we get to the appeals court. Right? Mm-hmm. If the appellate court does not see it the way that the American people do, we are going to have a very difficult time with our justice system. It's going to make it even more elevated amongst the citizens of our nation to know that if you do business in New York, you're going to be tried and convicted, which, you can be picked apart. He said it. Number 1 top attorney in the entire state of New York says, if you show me the person, I'll show you the crime.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's just like God in the Bible. Oh, isn't that in the Constitution? Yeah, God we trust. Guess what? He who has no sin cast the first stone. Jesus said that to the people as they were punishing, right?
Yeah.
So there is nobody without sin. Do we make mistakes? Yes. Do we get guidance? Are we rushing through things sometimes to get things done? Yes. Everybody makes mistakes. Is it to the point that you cannot see the cynicism and what's going on right here, that this is a completely weaponized judicial system going after the top candidate for a party? And I would say that this is where I think that the Republicans have never fought dirty, and they should honestly start fighting dirty now. If the Democrats can do it to Republicans, the Republicans should be doing it to them.
That's a hard thing for me to ever say. I won't be able to ever say that, but I know where you're coming from.
Yeah.
It's like, man, why can't we just, if this is the way that if they're making the rules, right? If they're driving the rules, and see, that's the thing. When you look at big changes in government and how the government reacts, it's the Democratic Party that does it. The Democratic Party plays dirty.
Yep.
And they want to shift everything as hard as they can. I mean, I get it. Everybody wants to have things in your you want it tilted in your direction, right? Everybody wants to have a little bit of an advantage when you're going into these. But the thing is that you used to be able to filibuster. You used to be able to filibuster your candidates for like Supreme Court and stuff for appointments. Sure. Can't anymore. You know why? Democratic Party did away with it. They wanted to say that the filibuster doesn't apply to appointments, and that they should just do an up or down vote, right? So they did that, and so now they didn't like it when it fell against them later on, because once they removed the rule, the Republican Party never put it back in when they got control.
That's right.
They left it alone, because if you start whittling away at the rules, and what happens is the other side has to keep it that way in order for it to swing. So every time every time there is a movement or a change in the control of the House or the Senate,
you're flip-flopping.
And when you're flip-flopping back and forth, you get swings in power. And those where we used to be nice and stable, and we would move towards a direction. Well, everybody wants it to happen now. So everybody says, "Well, these rules are stupid now. Filibuster is a stupid thing. Have to have 60 votes in the Senate is a stupid thing." What they don't understand is that it was built that way to keep it from having strong swings every election cycle.
That's right.
Because if Republicans win one time, it's going to swing hard to the right. And we're talking about all the different laws and the taxes and things. So every 4 years or 6 years, you'd have these wide swings. And the more you swing, the harder it is. And the country can't get stable. Yep. So you'll have 4 or 5 years of prosperity, and then you'll have 4 or 5 years of drought. Yep. Basically.
So carrying on with the appeal, right? So we know that we're going into the election with a candidate who is now a convicted felon. The appeals process will not be.
But again, I'm going to talk about that. I mean, he's a convicted felon. But these were not felonies.
I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
But this is what everybody's going to say. You're a convicted felon. Well, hey, I'm fantastic. You just earned a lot of money in a short amount of time because
that was the whole idea. Yeah. The whole idea is to give them a talking point. It's going to be the first time in history a convicted felon is running for president.
And it's backfired. And it's backfired, right? So now that will hold against them for security clearances. They're going to use all of these things to weaponize another state of affairs if they lose, right? The best thing that we can do is hope for the best in the appeals process, right? That justice is blind, and that it looks at the law for what the law is, and it's not twisted or anything to be weaponized. And if ultimately the appeals process fails, and then it goes to the Supreme Court, you hope that it actually makes it all the way through. Because I do agree that we should not condemn the process. I think that we should definitely say what we think about it, but we should wait for it to travel its course, right?
Yep.
Because once it does that, it gives the Republicans the high ground back and says, this is never going to happen again. And more people are going to side with the Republicans, and then they're going to shove it back in the Democrats' face, and all of this progressivism that's occurring in the Democratic Party, it's going to give more power back to the Republican Party. And that's why I think it's great that we don't go sue all the time and we take the high ground, because it could very well favor what the general population of the United States believe, instead of all of this right-wing crookedness, or left-wing crookedness.
Yeah.
Now, if we get to the point where we go to the ballot and we do all show America shows up and agrees with Donald Trump, right? And they prove it at the ballot. I still think that we're in for a ride because of the criticism that will come from him being considered the president of the United States come that 1 January date, and the justice requirements for finalizing all of the things for which he was convicted for, right? And ensuring that is still impartial and validated through the judicial system. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So, no, I mean, I agree that we have to have. I still want to believe in the rule of law, and the fact that we have laws, and because I believe in the rule of law, that I believe that the system works. The problem is you have it's like this when people talk about Christianity.
Yep.
Okay. Now I can talk about that a little bit later too. People talking about on Facebook, or people think that they're comparing Trump to Jesus.
Oh my Lord!
It's like nobody's comparing Trump to Jesus. I've not seen one thing that says they think that Trump is the same as Jesus.
No.
What they're saying is that trials are not always fair. Right.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Right. So keep it in perspective here. Mm-hmm. That I've not seen one person that says that they think Trump is Jesus or the same as Jesus. They're saying that not every trial is fair. So if you see that it was a sham, you see the meme that was a sham.
You just reminded me of the other thing for an appeal, which was the judge's conflict of interest
with his daughter.
His daughter.
Yeah, his daughter is a direct contributor, and he's a donor, and she works for the Democratic Party.
Yep.
So it's all a sham. It's all a sham. It
worked. They bought time.
So what we're looking for here, but I still believe in the process.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
But you have to be able to get rid of you've got to get rid of the corruption that permeates these jobs.
Yeah.
Right. Should the prosecutors be prosecutors be a political job? Should that be something that's voted in? Yes or no? Right? I mean, because
I personally think that the DOJ should never fall under the executive branch.
It has to, though.
I know.
That's who executive. But the problem is that when they do, they need to. The number one problem that Trump, the number one mistake that Trump made in 2016 or 2017, right, January 20th, 2017, is he should have went through and wiped out everybody in the DOJ, right, everybody in the EPA, and started over.
Yeah.
Yes, it would take a long time, and it would cripple their investigation. But it ain't gonna
be no worse than the way Biden has, because they don't convict felons.
They don't. I know exactly. That's the whole point. Is that now I think he knows that when he gets elected, and I believe I'm looking at the polls right now. That's what I've been kind of looking at here.
Yeah.
I mean, because I wanted to talk a little bit at the polls afterwards, but after we talk through this, Trump. It's going to help. Biden is going to get a little help here because of what happened today. Right. For those that may not have seen it, I'm expecting that most of you out there have seen this, that all of a sudden you have everybody's a full court press on border control. Right. So Biden has finally admitted that he has full executive power to be able to go do something about the border. And so he has now put out executive orders that says that, okay, if it gets over 2,500 or per day or whatever the number was, in illegals coming across, that they then can stop and send everybody else back after that. So that he can actually control that. 6 months ago, he said he couldn't control it. 6 months ago, he said the border's closed, but I can't control if illegals come in. And now he's saying, we're going to stop it at 2,500. Well, which is it? Right? Which is it? And he's going to get a little bit of an uptick from that, because you got Harris out there on the morning shows, and she's saying, oh, if we had a deal with the Senate to get this done to fix the border problem,
right.
and Donald Trump called around, and there are going to be some people that hear that, and they're going to automatically they're going to think, well, maybe that's true, right? But what people don't realize is that what they did for the border was not border control. What they were doing was simply saying, we're going to put more money in the processing of those people. We're going to pay more people to come in and help process them in so they can stay. They come across illegal. They get caught. They go over to this processor. Instead of going back, they were trying to get more people processed to let them stay in the country, right? And so if you come across illegal, you need to go back, get back in line. Then we can start talking about, well, do we need to let more people in through the legal? We let over 1 million people in legally a year.
Yep.
It's right around 1 million people on average. And we did a show on that a while back.
Yeah. Do you know that in California, Biden is actually as many people that are so frustrated with California, but they're showing 54% in the polls for Biden in California.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually closer than he wants it to be.
But, but the problem is that the reason why is because California is one of those states that's utilizing the illegal immigration. D.C. just voted. D.C. just voted. And they didn't care how many times you voted in D.C.
Yeah, they
just this week.
Here's the other thing. Did you see what California just went through their legislature the last couple of days?
Yes, I sure did.
Where they're not only that, but not only they're going to let them vote in locally, they're going to let them vote. They want to put them in front of Americans
for jobs. Yep.
You have to
for government jobs.
For government jobs in the state of California, you have to first offer it to
an
illegal immigrant before you can give it to a.
So essentially, you can be on the border patrol if you're an illegal immigrant.
And if there's 10 million illegal immigrants in California, which that was a big deal in the census in 2020.
Yeah.
Is because we don't want to count illegal immigrants
because they get money for them in the state.
Well, because they get their allotment.
Yeah, the federal funding.
Not just the federal funding, but they get their representation.
Yes, I know
allotment.
that. Yes, for the representation in the House and the Senate.
Yeah,
or the House. Sorry,
for the House,
Senate.
not the Senate. Senate's two, no matter what.
Everybody, yeah.
But that's the thing. So that's how they're tilting this thing.
Yep.
There's 538. Not 530. There's 400. Was it four? No,
America
437 or something like that.
The Democrats have sold y'all a bill of goods for so long.
They have.
That you bought into it, and now they're letting people that aren't from this country take it over. That haven't grown up in this country, have not done anything, and they are giving your country away. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. So now,
the practices of what they've done over the last 12 years.
So let's look at the polls real quick. Let's talk about the polls. So we were talking about this. So there's a new Michigan poll out today. It shows tied. That's statistically tied. I think that Trump is actually showing a little bit ahead, but statistically it's a tie. And there's two different ones came out. When you figure in Trump versus Biden head to head, it's tied in Michigan. When you figure in Kennedy and the other candidates alongside, and then Trump's up 46 to 45, so he's up by one.
Look at Texas. Texas is pink now because of all the moves out of California into Texas for business and work. And it's pink. It's not even red anymore. It used to be completely red.
So let me say, there was another one from Texas that came out a while back too. It's still pretty red. And the thing is, what's causing it to go, well, no, it's getting darker red again because the Hispanic vote is moving towards the Republican Party. And which is they for a long time they were Republican voters, because they're conservatives. But let's look at this. So I'm going back before. So the verdict came out Thursday last week? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So would have been after our show. If we would have done a show last week, it would have been after. So they had a 49-37. Oh, sorry, that's not Biden. Okay, so because they're worried about the fact that New York is only a 6-point Biden before the election, before the thing. So
how many votes?
Conviction.
Yeah. What do you need for electoral votes to win?
270.
270. That's what I thought. Oh man, I'm playing with the numbers on this page, and I'm telling you, this is gonna be weird because the toss-up states.
Right now,
put it
Trump,
right in the middle.
Right now, Trump is leading in every battleground state. On the poll averages, he's
right now.
He's ahead.
It is 226 to 235 in the polls. If you take the polls for every state, put all the numbers on the board
until you put in the
toss-ups.
The toss-ups, yeah. So in the ones that are automatically split, 235 to 226, Trump's away, right?
But they're showing Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia as a toss-up state.
Correct.
Hey, Kentucky, you're doing a great job. I mean,
so right now, Trump leads in Georgia 49 to 44. And if you put in Kennedy, he's up a little bit higher. He's 43 to 37, which is a 6-point. And like I said before, if you put in Kennedy in Michigan, he leads there. He's also in the lead head to head, but it's statistically a tie. Let's see. Well, let's look at what other one here.
So which one are you on? Are you on the 270 town? Towin.com?
No, I'm on. I look at the Real Clear Politics polling averages.
The 270 to win is a great site because you can reset it, but it's got all the polls that you can drop down and
and then you can build your own map there too. So
you
can
it's got the map. I'm clicking on it.
There's a lot of I watch a lot of people who use those maps and they build their own.
Yeah, I should pull this up for everybody right now.
So you should do that.
Hold on. All right, you keep talking.
I will. So these are latest polls, right? So this is this week afterwards. So in the general election right now, overall, if you look at Morning Consult, Rasmussen, there's if you look at the average between those two polls, whether you have the other candidates in or not, it's somewhere around a 2.5, 3 point lead. Afterwards, this last week, it was only like 1.5 for Trump. Now he's a little bit further ahead after the conviction. Let me tell you what else has happened this week.
Okay.
Since the day of the conviction, we have gotten phone call after phone call, email after email, wanting Trump signs. It is hardening the Republican Party. The Republicans out there to come out and vote. They want to put a Trump sign in their yard to show their support.
I wish
they are paying. They are paying money to. I mean, he raised over $34 million in like 6 hours. After the conviction, right? It was like 6 hours, 8 hours, something like that. It was unheard of numbers. And I mean, heck, I've already started my donations in. So I mean, normally I don't start donating until after the
closer to the election.
Well, after the convention. Usually I start putting start giving money after the convention, but it's a.
Let me pull this up real quick. So I just want to show everybody, based on the 2024 consensus, that's taking all the polls into consideration. So right now it's 235 Donald Trump and 226.
But that's before you get into the toss-ups.
This is with the toss-ups. This is with the toss-ups right now. That's where it is. So,
no, it can't be. It's not enough there.
No, just listen to me, Mark. I'm showing you the consensus of all the polls right now. The toss-ups undecided. Right now they're showing Donald Trump 235 and Democrats 226. There are 77 votes that have to be won from the toss-ups that can go either side.
He needs 35. Trump needs 35
of those 77.
Yep.
The toss-ups are Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. But he still needs to be a little bit worried because a lot can happen between now and then. And some of these states that are pink, that used to be hard red are obviously a focus.
Well, I mean, Texas, you talk about Texas being hard red. I mean, Texas has never been a red state, a ruby red state. Yeah. Texas has always been a lean red state.
Yep.
It's never, and so it's or likely red state.
Yep.
Right. Likely there's red. There's like will vote for Trump. There are will vote. Yeah. So
let me keep going here. So U.S. News shows similar toss-up states, but takes Minnesota, makes it hard blue. All of these are on here, and I encourage you to go to www.270towin.com. You can see these polls for yourself and play with this all day long. There's Fox News. Here's Fox News belief. It shows Donald Trump winning hands down, even with the undecideds. Fox News polls say that. Of course, it's Fox News because you're only, but Elections Daily, you can get it from both sides. And again, I showed you from the get-go, which is a consensus of all of the polling and where we're at. And if they're not taking a look at those battleground states for Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, I mean, it's clearly blue up in the original 13 colonies. But there's still ground to be won in Pennsylvania. It's going to come down to the same problem we talk about all the time in Kentucky, which is rural voters need to start believing that their vote counts, and they need to show up. And you need to show up and vote. And you don't need to wait for a general election to show that you care about the civic process, because a lot of elections are won because of low turnout in votes and not enough competition at the voting polls. But anyway, Mark, back to you.
So if you look at that 270 to win, and I'm on the same page with you, right? So if you look at that right now, he's got a lead in Nevada. Mm. He's got a lead in Arizona. He's got a lead in Georgia. Yeah. Right. That gets him at 268.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's got to pick up one other of Wisconsin, Michigan, or Pennsylvania, or he needs to pick up the Maine at large. Right. So if he picks up Maine at large, that gives him, let's see.
I think if he takes Georgia and he takes, I wouldn't even waste any more time in Pennsylvania other than, it's there. Go to Pennsylvania, do your thing. But I think Arizona, but he's at 250, 262 with Arizona and a pink, and Pennsylvania at a pink. He gets to 281.
He can get to 270 if he wins Maine at large, Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Okay. He doesn't have to have Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, but I think he will. I think he ends up with at least two out of those three.
Yeah, if he wins Pennsylvania and Georgia, it's over.
If he wins Pennsylvania and Georgia, it's done.
It's done.
In Pennsylvania right now, Erie County up in the northwest there.
Yep.
And those are all moving there. I saw something the other day that the registration in those areas are moving heavy Republican.
Yep.
And so it's expecting that Pennsylvania is going to be a lot harder for Biden to win, in Pennsylvania.
Well, there's a lot of folks in Pennsylvania that are mad because he lied. He said, no, he's not going to kill the pipeline. And it was the first thing he did when he got to office, and killed the oil pipeline, which would have kept costs down. And he's,
Yeah, I mean, right now you look at, even Minnesota is in play.
Yeah.
It's crazy that Minnesota is in play. When that's a heavy,
it would be great if it was in play and that Senate seat was up, because they could, vote out some and House seat.
Yeah. So, speaking of this, if we talk about the Senate, I mean, you got to look at Montana. We need to flip Montana.
Yep.
We need to flip. I think there's one in Ohio that needs to flip. Mm-hmm. Is it in Ohio? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know.
I
Well,
the Senate
that's a
seats.
different topic. We'll have to go into that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about that next week. But it's there's a lot of stuff going on in a lot of. But I mean, there's a couple. Trump has more paths to 270 than Biden does right now, based on the polls right now. Now, it's going to change.
Yeah.
Biden is starting to change. He's trying to move back to the middle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden on border. But he's not really getting there. Mm-hmm. But the verbiage is like he's getting there. He does a little bit, and they're acting like it's going all the whole way.
Yep.
And so they're going to try to get as much mileage out of that as possible, because as soon as let's say Biden ekes out a win in November, right?
Yep.
Let's say he ekes it out and he gets there, and it's like, well, as soon as January 20th happens, as soon as he wins, right, he's right. He's going to go right back to doing everything that the progressives have wanted him to do. He's going to get super progressive. Mm-hmm. They're going to try to open the border back up as wide as they can possibly can.
Yep.
You cannot trust him. You cannot trust him. I mean, I give respect to the office. I do pray for the office, for the man in the office.
Nation.
I pray for our nation. But at the same time, you cannot trust Joe Biden to do on any of these things that he says he's going to do.
I don't think you're voting for Joe Biden if you vote for Joe Biden. I think you're voting for the people that are manipulating Joe.
Yeah,
Biden. He's a puppet in my.
Everybody says that the people who are writing the speeches are the ones that are actually running the country, because they're the ones that are that are driving him.
Hearsay. I'm with you. And it's confusing, because when you watch the video footage of him in action. There's a Time magazine was featured today. They did a live interview with him. In fact, there was a heated engagement with the Time magazine interviewer who interviewed Joe Biden for the article. I would encourage you to go check out that article, because the guy candidly said, I will leave that up to the reader to determine whether or not you think that he has the clout to run for office, but whether he was all there or not. They kept drilling him on live television because he did this article on Joe Biden. He's the front page cover of Time magazine, and he adamantly stayed out of that topic on all of the talk shows about that article. He said, I believe that there's enough information for the reader to determine whether or not he's capable in his demeanor. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So I do.
And I think if you've ever engaged Joe Biden, and in fact, I think he said something, there was a discussion that he even challenged the reporter, you want to go? You want to go at it? I'll take you on. I'm an 80-year-old man.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's completely insane. So we were talking earlier, if you look at next week when we talk about the Senate map if you go to that map later on in your spare time, if you have any of that, there's really only two that's up for grabs. It's Montana and Ohio. So it's going to be an interesting. But right now, without those, it's 50 for the. It's going to be 50 for the 50 Republicans and 48 Democrats as it stands right now.
Wow.
So it's 46 Democrats and 2 independendents that
isn't West Virginia's going up with
West Virginia is, but they're already putting it in because it's Manchin is stepped down, retiring, and the former governor. Republican governor is running in that, and it's expected to be ruby red. So
okay, good.
Manchin's the only reason that people it's kind of like here, for some reason we have a Republican or a Democrat governor. Mm-hmm. There was really no reason for that other than of that particular person that's in the governor's seat. So
I think he'll be a political candidate in the next
I think he wants to be. I don't think he's going to be a viable one, though. I mean, I think that he's not going to be able. I mean, wouldn't he be? I don't think he would pull Kentucky. I don't think he would even pull Kentucky on a national level. I think locally he does. Yeah, but if he was running against somebody else in Kentucky, maybe he does. Maybe
we'll see.
He would.
Yeah, that's a different time. And
yeah.
different topic,
but yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what's going to happen for the election.
Yeah, let's
Right.
please, and don't forget to talk about getting your gear on for the
That's where I'm
Republican
coming.
Party.
That's where I'm coming. So the Republican Party, Meade County Republican Party, is going to start our own Trump store. So we need this is it's going to be, we're going to take donations. You can come and sign up. You can go right on this podcast right now and put in a comment here. You can go to our the Meade GOP. The MeadeGOP.com and click to you can send us a message there. But what we're going to do is we're going to start a store. It's not ready yet. We're hoping to get it ready in the next couple of weeks, where you can go and purchase your Trump gear.
Yeah.
It'll be Trump gear. It'll be Meade County Republican Party gear. It'll be basically any of the candidates. You'll be able to get some of their gear, sign up for their signs and things like that. So we're bringing that pretty soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have that set up, and we're going to have, number one, we're going to have signs. So if you want a Trump sign, they're going to be somewhere between $8 and $10. We're trying to get those priced out right now. Basically, we're just trying to get our money back on those. We're not trying to make a lot of money or anything. We're just going to all the money ends up as a donation to the Meade County Republican Party, and we will that money will all be cycled back into the election cycle. So that'll put out our mailers and things like that. But we can't afford to buy signs as a party locally for everybody that wants one in Meade County. We need to recover some of those costs. And so, so we're going to ask for a donation.
Yeah, they are
like
not
a $10
cheap.
donation.
I mean, I'm buying branding stuff for the messenger, and I'm telling you, it's not cheap.
It's not cheap right now. It's like it used to be. You can get a sign in the wire hanger or the wire. What's that called?
They're about
not a hanger, but
it's a yard sign.
Yeah, it's a yard sign, but the wire.
Yeah, the wire, the part that sticks in the ground for the yard.
I know, but I'm trying to remember what it's actually called. It's not called. I don't think it's called a hanger. It's called something else. But anyway, whatever that is that sticks in the ground, it's shaped like an H. It's a yard sign stake. Is what it is. It's a sign stake. And when you go to put that in, you gotta pay that. It's a separate fee for the stake and the sign.
H-wire stakes.
And so they're H. Thank you.
H-wire stakes.
And so they are. You look at the cost of those things. The sign, a 2-sided sign, going to be like $5-6, and then the stake is like $2. $2 to $3. So that's where the $8 comes in. So it's going to be somewhere between $8 and $10, depending on the number of signs we can buy at one time. So we need to know who all wants those signs, and please understand that it's going to take us a little while to get those in. The goal is to have them in by, say, the fair time, so we can get them all out to everybody, and we can start getting those out to the out to folks, and people can start showing their spirit. We're also going to do some flags. We'll have some flags, some Trump flags. You'll be able to order a banner if you want to put a big banner. If you got a big roadside area out by a highway or something. But the number one thing you can do is contribute. So if you can either go to the Meade County Republican Party, MeadeGOP.com, and you can go there and donate there. You can go to Donald Trump's campaign, donate there. I urge you to do both. The Trump campaign is not going to funnel a lot of money down to the Meade County level. Oh no! Right? They have that's big. Those are for the big ads and stuff, and the big. If you want to support him locally, you can give directly to the Meade County Republican Party, and we can actually that'll help us buy signs. Newspaper time, radio time, all those things for not just for but for all the Republican candidates. But we will be 100% supporting Donald Trump as far as we always have. We always our job as the party is to get Republican candidates elected, and that takes money. It takes effort. If you can't go out and go door to door, then we ask you to donate. If you can't donate, we ask you to make phone calls. Mm-hmm. Do something to help us get this over the top. Yeah. And we need to show a very strong showing for our Republican candidates in November. We only had 11%
We have
11% of the people came out and voted in the primary.
Oh my gosh!
And it was just, and it feels like, if people complain all the time about trying to get term limits and things, but if you want to term limit somebody, go out and work for a candidate that's an alternate candidate. You don't want to get rid of somebody just to get rid of somebody. You want to make sure that you have a plan and have a person and people in. You have to have a plan to put other people in place.
We've talked
that are
about
going to
that
support
a lot too,
your
because
agenda.
it takes a long time, especially with the numbers of bills proposed. And look at how many bills don't get through because it takes a long time.
The average is it takes for a representative. You're looking at 4 years before they actually have their feet underneath them to be able to go
and a bill moving through legislation
and for them to be able to get their agendas in front of people. And people say, well, that's a shame. Well, there's a lot. It's a process. It doesn't just like you don't get to go in and just yell out and say, I want this now. I want we got to get this done now. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. You got to go out there and you got 437 or 438, whatever it is. I think it's 438.
Yep.
Representatives from 50 different states, and they all have an agenda. And so you got to get your message in front of enough of those people to get them to move. And sometimes you have to listen to theirs so they'll listen to yours. And it takes time to do that. And I know everybody wants it to happen now, but it just doesn't. It's not going to. You're not going to be able to convince enough people in your first 2 years to move your direction. And if you think that putting people, taking half of Congress out every cycle is going to change that, it's not. It's just going to make it more chaotic because now you've got people who haven't heard your message before. The people that you just convinced to hear your message are gone.
Yep.
Right? Now you've got to convince new people to get behind your message.
Yep.
Everybody out there, every individual has their own politic.
Yep.
Not one person is 100% aligned to the person next to them, even though we're Republican, or even though they're Democrat, or even though they're independent, or libertarian.
Sure.
Whatever it may be. No two people in any organization are aligned 100% on every aspect of that organization or everything that makes you a Republican. That's why it hurts me so much to hear people talk about rhinos and things, because a rhino just means that they don't agree with you and you're mad at them.
Yep.
And so you want to call them a name.
Yeah, we have a bad problem with doing that. People who come from the other party and realize that their conservative values have left, and then they join our party, and they may not agree with us, but they're still.
Well, I mean, we did it to people we knew were Republicans.
Yeah. I think that's
way
great.
Back when.
Yeah, because it means we're not a cult. People are willing to come over and join our group, and I feel like the Democrats are becoming a cult.
What do you call there were rhinos and dinos, right?
I guess
there were rhinos and dinos. I guess there were Republicans in name only and Democrats in name only. Mm-hmm. It's both sides, and what you're saying is that there's a middle. Mm-hmm. Between the two,
then go be an independent,
right? And you can be an independent, yeah. I mean, but I'm saying that there's people who are, they're not. Again, there is a wide range of viewpoints within the party.
Last topic, and we got to close it down. All right, so Kennedy, being the only candidate for the independent party running for the election, was turned down for having any security from the Secret Service as he moves forward as a potential presidential
Biden
candidate.
thing.
It is a Biden thing, but according to the press release, they said it's a bipartisan.
I mean, his uncle and his dad were only assassinated.
I understand that, and I'm just saying, but it was the press, White House press said it was a bipartisan agreement to not approve Secret Service for a prime candidate running for office, which is afforded to the Republican Party and it's afforded to the Democratic Party.
Define prime candidate. It's going to get
meaning
8% of the vote.
No,
7% of the vote.
No, I'm saying for their party, that they have advanced forward, which was really a kind of a whatever. But he is by all rights in this election, and given the wackiness of this election, if there was enough people, which we don't think that there is based off all the polling.
It's 8%.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
But I'm just
saying. I mean, just call it what it is. Don't beat around the bush. A lot
can happen between now and then, and people could get really mad and just say, you know what, I'm going to finally vote down the middle and whatever. And if they
you're not going to get enough though.
I don't think so.
It would have to be, you would have to pull 20% from each side. Well, not quite 20%, about 15% from each side to get that.
Let me just hypothetically say Joe Biden dies.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is in jail. And both parties pick somebody randomly that we've not heard from.
Donald Trump is in jail. He still wins the election.
He still can. Is he going to pardon himself from jail?
Well, he can't pardon himself in New York.
That's constitutional.
That's the whole thing. He can pardon himself. That's a question that people ask. But you can. The president can pardon himself on anything. The problem is that it's not a federal. It's not a federal crime. The crimes that they're talking about. We're coming back full circle. The crime that they're talking about is not a federal crime. It's a state crime. It's a misdemeanor in the state of New York. What they had to create a new form of law packaged around. In order for it even to have gone, they had to tie it to a federal to the Federal Election Commission. They had to tie in the Federal Election Commission. So they said because he did not. I'm glad we came in full circle because he said that this is not because he did not put this down on his form. They said that he didn't put it on his form so he could hide it from the American public, which constitutes a election interference, right? Because he didn't disclose it on his federal form. That's what they're saying, and that's what they were allowed it to. That's what they were allowing it to be. That's what allowed it to be elevated to a felony, right? And supersede the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
See, they couldn't have even brought this case in New York if they did not do that, because it had already run out. The statute of limitations had already run out on that report. That's why you only have 7 years of taxes. Right, you only have to keep 7 years. After 7 years, that it's whatever happened over 7 years ago, it's not you're not going to get audited.
Mark, I love doing this show with you, buddy. It's been a great show today.
So
hold on a second. This thing's doing that stupid thing again. Hey, it's been a great show. I think we left a lot of people with a lot of information.
We got some stuff to clear up, but this election is a very important election, and you cannot. I'm going to tell you, you need to give money. All you Republicans out there,
$5.
You need to give $5, $10, $12, $15, but whatever you can give, you need to give that money to Donald Trump's campaign. Don't now be careful. There's a lot of people sending out a lot of fake Donald Trump stuff. Go look up his campaign.
Yep.
It will have to go through. I'll tell you right now, it goes through WinRed, right? If you're giving to anything that doesn't go through WinRed,
don't give it.
It's not the actual campaign.
Yeah.
So look for the WinRed secure login.
And if you just want to make sure people get out and vote locally, then tune into the Meade Truth. You'll get a link very soon about where you can get your own signage and memorabilia for this election for your candidate that you want to support, and then put it in your yard and convince your neighbors to do the same.
Yep. And we're going to have some. We want to have some rallies this year. We want to get some people motivated to get out and celebrate Donald Trump, and we want to make sure that we're putting him out there as much as possible locally. But man, get a hold of your family and friends in other states, specifically in those battlegrounds of Georgia and Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Let's put I don't want him just to win by a little bit. I want him over 300 electoral votes. Yeah. I want to make sure that we put this in their face in November and keep this what Donald Trump says, make it too big to rig.
That's right.
make it too big to rig. And
like
we
it.
need to make sure that we do our part in that. And that means we make phone calls. We talk to the people we know, the people we have influence over. So thanks for tuning in tonight, guys. We do have the Meade County Fair coming up, so we are looking for people that want to participate in the fair parade, and those who might want to work in the booth and such. So give us a call. Right, 270-945-3418 is our Meade County Republican party line. You can call that number for a sign and get signed up. So
have a great night.
Thanks tonight, everybody. Thank you. Good night.